Sex sells, some say. It has widely been a marketing standard for quite some time now. Just how and who markets sex? Well, you can go back and scan all those images that just flashed for a brief moment on your screen, or you can just stick around and sit right there and see for yourself. I'm going to show you that not only do companies, and remember even television shows are made by a company that want to sell you something, their show is a product. Do you not think that these companies not only product place you by putting products in their shows to get you to buy that product in their movies, TV shows, ads, video games, or anything that you put before your eyes, but they're also going to put sexual innuendos in there to get you to think about sex, so then your mind's going into contributing this product to something good. Well, not only do they put it in adult shows, but they're putting it in children's shows. You think I'm kidding? Stick around and look for yourself. I'm going to show you an artist here who shows you how to mask sexual images in children's pictures that look like anything normal to the naked eye, but to the trained eye, if you study it hard enough, you can actually see subliminal sexual innuendos. Take a look.
garden shed and you didn't even bother coming to look for me! Oh my God! Is it? It is! The mega bitch! Let me at her!
Is this for me?
Get me an axe! No, get me a chainsaw! I'm gonna slice them into tiny pieces!
Mother, are you going to be doing any gardening today?
Well, it is a lovely day for it.
The death breath! She killed me with the death breath! Begone, evil one! Hey, maybe there's a stake in there. We could drive it right through her heart.
Every teenage boy's unattainable goal. This is what mind control powers were made for.
Huey's here and we're so lucky. He's a handsome, gorgeous darky. Huey, yay, you.
I could definitely get used to this. Like, Grandmama, what big red eyes y'all have. And the big ugly old wolf says, the better to see y'all with, my dear.
That wolf is nasty, huh, Bunny?
Nasty as a one-eyed snake, Sugar.
Tails! Get off!
I'm so sorry.
I never thought you'd stoop that low. Tails! Get off!
Hello, Mayor. Good day, Miss Bellum. How is every little thing? Your pencil go snap. Here, let me help you with that.
Especially if you don't know how to land.
Hey, the plane is settled. You can get up now.
Hey, thank you so much. My head almost hit the wall. I think you may have saved my life. I was thrown viciously, just like this. When I hit something soft instead of the wall. It was you. I don't know how I can repay you. I could have cracked my head open, but this is so soft and nice. Thank you so much.
Krillin! Huh? Hey, I'll help you. Look out, fish. Here I come.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah! Come to Papa, baby! Old Rosie's got something to show you!
Hey, Krillin, what's the deal? You're not giving up, are you? Well, are you?
No way.
Yo! Heads up!
I'm I
guess it's not time to get up yet. Ha! See? I told you there was enough room for both of us. Strange. It feels like there's nothing there. It's your balls, Bulma! They're gone!
What? You're kidding me! How?
I don't know.
No! Phew. Thank goodness. They're all here, Goku. You must have been dreaming. Man, you really had me scared.
I know what boys like. I know what guys want. That's a nice muscly throwing on you got there. You know, if you get sweaty and want to take your shirt off, that'd be just fine. You got anything you used to wear in the summertime?
Just these old shorts.
Sweet Jesus. Hope you don't find the money strapped to my thigh.
Yeah!
We can settle this like reasonable and sexy teenagers. Whoever can swallow the most Tylenol PM wins. I know what boys like. I know what guys want. Hey, little man, tell Chris to open his window. So we take each other's hand, 'cause we seem to understand the urgency.
So I'll be your friend.
And I'll be your lover.
Watch Dr. Drew's new show at 9 on HLN. Weeknights on HLN.
How old were you when you first realized that you were a girl?
Ever since I could express myself, I always knew that I was
You
a
should,
girl.
at least by now, find yourself wondering, can it really be this bad? Especially if you watch part 1 and now are watching this part. You got to be thinking that by now, even if you're not a Christian. Is it really that bad? Well, do the things we watch and the things we listen to affect us? Many would argue that they don't. Some would say, where are the parents at? Why don't the parents stop this if it's so bad? Could the problem actually be that the parents, like some of you listening to me, think that it's not that big of a deal? It's just music. It's just a cartoon. Surely it couldn't have anything bad in it now, could it?
You know, you're a girl, fine. I thought it would pass, but as months went by, I realized this was getting stronger. And I had a DSM-4 at home and looked in it, and there is a diagnosis for gender identity disorder in children, and she hit 5 out of the 5 of the markers for it. So by age 3, I had a pretty good idea
What you were dealing with. Did that prompt you then to seek medical help, or you just rolled with it further?
Right, yeah, at that time. I went and sought medical help at that time. Actually, the pediatrician around 2.5, 3 said, you know what, I think you have a problem, you might want to seek a specialist, and I did. And they confirmed what I had diagnosed at home. And at that time, you know, we were devastated. You know, it's not, you don't want to hear your child has any disorder. But since then, we've been trying to make the best of it and just support her and let her guide us.
Johanna, Dr. Olson, you deal with this all the time.
Yes.
And so this is not an uncommon story for you to hear what we're calling gender identity disorder of childhood.
That's correct.
Okay. But there's confusing and conflicted language all around this disorder, isn't there?
Yes,
in fact,
there
we
is.
call it a disorder even as something that people argue about. Tell me where the medical community is now about this.
I think the medical community is all over the place. I think it's really difficult. It's not something you're taught about in medical school. It's not something you're taught about.
By the way, not taught about in medical school. Exactly right. I don't think anyone's taught about it really specific. You hear about it a little bit in adults, but you don't hear about it in children.
That's correct. And I think just the idea that people are transitioning or social transitioning, which is changing your hair, your clothes, maybe your name and maybe your pronouns in childhood, is a really rare and new phenomenon.
Good, bad?
Depends who you ask. I personally think there are children who are suffering so much and have so much social dysfunction that they drive a social transition themselves.
And so should Jazz be encouraged to continue the way she's doing it? Is this a healthy way to approach this problem?
Well,
and again, I choke on the word problem and disorder because the kid doesn't seem to be suffering.
That's
right?
correct.
Doesn't there need to be some suffering associated with the disorder, right?
I think that's why people get disturbed that it's in the DSM at all. It's called a disorder, but it really is around...
Having now seen some undeniable evidence placed in children's cartoons, I want you to see other methods in which they promote their product or their show with sexual innuendos. Another technique they like to use is placing the word sex into an ad or the show, as you see here, the show House with it spray painted on the wall. And here you can see it in Cinderella as the two mouse pull beads out of each other's butt. And here 40 Days of Night poking fun at the Bible while it displays it above his crotch area. Here a scene from Harry Potter, and if you take out all the other text besides the bold big letters, it spells out porn. Here in the White Sox logo, this was popular when I was in middle school. You could just mark out a little bit of the O and it spells sex. Here in a more adult-based cartoon, although I would like to add that children will definitely watch any cartoon that's put before them. You see a blatant display of the word sex in her smoke, but although this one looks more blatant, the intentions are still there. Here in another scene from Harry Potter, if you just dim down everything but the candles at the top of the scene, you see the word sex. And here in another scene from Harry Potter, if you just turn down the tone of the lighting here, you'll see in the background smudged on the wall the word sex. And I know a lot of you guys out there aren't going to believe that I didn't Photoshop these pictures or something, so here's a challenge one for you. Go to the ATF's website and look on the flag. I have it highlighted here for you, but if you want to go there yourself, the website is on the screen right here. Go to the website and look for yourself. It's there on the American flag.
Objection overruled.
Parents across America are losing their parental rights. These aren't abusive or neglectful parents, but parents who love and protect their children. So why are good parents losing their rights?
The vast majority of parents and adults in general think that the normal, traditional rules of parents' rights are still in place, that parents get to make decisions for their children in areas of education, their upbringing, medical care, the whole gamut of parental decision-making.
The vast majority of Americans believe that moms and dads should be able to parent as they see fit. But what they don't understand is there's no legal right that allows them to do so.
The Supreme Court of the United States, throughout the history of the nation, has always treated that right of a parent to raise their child as what we call in the law fundamental.
When I realize and learn that something that I thought was a fundamental right is not a fundamental right, that is deeply troubling.
For the first time in American history, a majority of the Supreme Court no longer treats the parent's right to control and direct the upbringing of their child as a fundamental liberty.
The problem with explaining parents' rights to a person as compared to free speech rights, free speech, you say, go look in the First Amendment, there it is. But for parents' rights, there's no place to go look. You have to go read a bunch of Supreme Court decisions to see how they found it, what they've done to it in the meantime, and it's an evolving standard. That's the problem.
There are people each and every day who are scheming to take away parental rights to start to destroy the family structure.
We now have a new situation where government itself becomes the standard, and who's ever in power gets to say what your liberty is.
Without actual constitutional text, our basic parental rights can be completely written off.
It was just another ordinary day, with the exception of Daddy having the privilege of picking his little boy up from kindergarten. And he came running up to the door, and I went over to meet them.
Like I always do when I do pick him up, we just give all the materials to my wife, Tanya.
So Dave handed me Jake's things. I looked at what Jake had brought home. It wasn't just his book bag, it was also another book bag. So what I read on the front of the book bag, I was a little perplexed by. I took Jake's belongings on into the kitchen, took a closer look at the additional thing that Jacob had brought home.
Tanya got into this book bag and called me over to show me what one of the books was.
Dave, where'd you get this?
Jake had it at school. Why?
Jake, honey, who gave this to you?
Miss Johnson.
I'm realizing this material has somehow been deemed appropriate to even be placed in my 5-year-old's hands.
What in the world?
It was a book meant to introduce and normalize homosexuality.
This is about introducing to my child sexuality issues at a very early age.
And they teach this in kindergarten?
Even before he's introduced by his parents.
He's just a child, Dave.
I just could not believe that they were doing this in kindergarten.
And I was worried. I didn't know. I didn't know what other discussions had taken place.
What else are they doing in that school?
We decided to email the teacher.
Hey, Tanya, can you read this and tell me what you think?
Tanya and I thought it absolutely necessary to make it clear to the teachers and administrators of that school that it is our parental right to be able to be notified when they're doing this to our children and have the option to opt our children out.
Jake can't even tie his own shoes yet.
The principal agreed to meet with us the following Friday.
I think you're both misinformed. These school materials have nothing to do with homosexuality, but with family.
She basically directed us to a gay, lesbian, straight educational network workshop.
Go to this workshop.
That's entitled How and Why to Talk to Your Children About Diversity.
It'll get rid of any wrong preconceptions you have about what we're doing.
We did not know what we were getting into at this point. The evening came for the GLSEN workshop.
Thank you so much for coming tonight.
When the workshop leader came in the room, the first thing he said was,
I could talk to you about diversity, but tonight I've decided to talk about homosexuality.
I don't want to discuss heterosexuality and homosexuality or the comparisons between the two at this early age, and they made it very clear that they've decided to introduce this to young children, and they were willing to do it behind the backs of parents and without opt-out.
Let me show you what's going to be happening around here over the next few weeks.
I was very worried. Not only was my mind racing, wondering what could possibly have already taken place and what their plans were to accelerate these discussions and presentations to our 5-year-old son.
We're going to be putting more educational materials like this in every classroom.
Indeed, this is now something they're going to be rolling out more and more. So after we fully understood what they planned to do with the children, we went to the principal.
I wanted to catch you before you leave and let you know that we both decided that we still want Jake opted out of these lessons.
And we'd like to have parental notification in advance if something like this should come up again.
I'm afraid we can't do that.
They would not accommodate at all. We had one final meeting at Estabrook Elementary School with the principal and the director of education.
There's only 2 months left until school is over.
All we're asking is for you to make an exception for one child. Just one child.
All right. That sounds reasonable. I think we can do that.
Well, thank you.
We just need to speak to the superintendent. I think we can work something out.
When she told us that accommodation may be possible just for the end of the year, we were very happy.
So at that point, I left the meeting, and Dave continued to stay in the meeting.
And as I was sitting there, I thought, finally, we're getting some accommodation. Who are we talking about here? We're talking about my child. I'm not talking about the rest of the school. We didn't say never do this. We said when you do it, as they stated they would, notify us first, and we want the option to opt out if we don't think he's ready for that. What I didn't realize was they weren't actually taking that extra time to accommodate. They were formulating another plan. They were keeping me there by leaving me with this promise and calling the police.
It looks like we're getting somewhere.
Really?
See you there?
Yes, officer, that's him over there.
Mr. Parker, need to have a word with you.
When I saw the police come in, I thought to myself, I cannot believe they've done this to me.
You gotta be kidding me.
Getting arrested today is not going to help your cause either.
My only cause is to be a good father. I want my son opted out, and I'm not leaving here until they agree to do that.
When I was let out and put in the police car, I thought to myself, How far are they willing to go to deny us our parental rights? There needs to be some kind of protection of our parental rights.
Unbelievable.
Any form of authority which undermines the interaction and the guidance of a parent for their child has to be stopped. Parents need some form of protection because this type of thing is happening more and more and more.
If you think the David Parker case is an isolated incident, you try it. If you have a child in public school, you go down and make your voice be heard and see what happens.
There has been a slow degradation of parental rights. They have slowly dictated that they have more control within the schools than you do within the home.
The way this has come about is this idea that once a child is dropped off at a school, they enter the doors of that school, that then the parental rights evaporate. And that parent has no say over what their child will be taught, what their child will be exposed to.
What we've seen over the last 40 to 50 years is continual legislative and judicial overreach going into areas that we never thought they would reach into.
The government has a role, but it's not the role of a partner. It's the role of a backstop. If you abuse your kids, if you neglect your kids, and they have evidence of that, the government moves in, and they should move in those circumstances. But when they treat all of us as if we're child abusers, that's absolutely outrageous, and we can't stand for it.
Karl Marx said that in order to establish a perfect socialist state, you have to destroy the family. You have to substitute the government and its authority for parental authority in the rearing of children.
If this situation isn't bad enough, we now face an even greater threat to parental rights that will forever change the role of the family as we know it. This new challenge comes in the form of an international treaty called the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, also known as the UNCRC or the CRC.
On November 20, 1989, the United Nations adopted the Convention of the Rights of the Child, the CRC. The treaty was designed with 4 core principles in mind: non-discrimination, the best interest of the child, rights to life, survival and development, and respect for the views of children.
It is frustrating that the U.S. is the only country that has not approved this, and we certainly hope that progress can soon be made.
At first glance, the UNCRC appears to promote the rights of children. Interestingly, the USA is the only country that hasn't ratified the treaty. So what's holding us back?
Some people think there is nothing wrong with the treaty because it is there supposedly to protect children. But there are parts of the treaty that are very, very dangerous. For example, one says that any government action involving children and parents must be made in the best interest of the child. The second provision says that a child's view should be taken into consideration side by side with a parent's, and that the child's view should be given due consideration. And this is especially true as the child gets older. What this means is anytime there's a conflict or a dispute between a child and the parent, a government bureaucrat gets to decide what is in the best interest of the child instead of the parent deciding what is in the best interest of the child.
One of the things the Convention of the Rights of the Child states is that children have the right to access any media or any information that they want. It also means that a predator has the ability to access children through the internet, and that parents have no right to protect their children. So this treaty that purports to give rights to children really makes children more vulnerable to being exploited and abused.
Is there a homosexual agenda? And what I mean by that, is there a conspiracy, if you want to use a word like that, to turn the tide for homosexuality to be the popular, or at least the norm in America and around the world? Well, the images that are being flashed before you are books that are given to your children in public schools from kindergarten through the 12th grade. It is my belief that there is a homosexual agenda for many reasons, especially in America, as I do live there. And I'm going to talk about that in depth in this segue.
This stuff is really good.
Aren't you guys brothers?
Homosexuality is and has been a part of the world for thousands of years. It is mentioned in the book of Genesis chapter 19 verses 23 through 26. The sun was risen upon the earth when Lot entered into Zoar. Then the Lord rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities and all the plain, and all the inhabitants of the cities, and that which grew upon the ground. How could anyone say that homosexuality is normal, when if the first two people created by God would have decided that they were more interested in themselves, as there was no other same sexes there would be no more human beings, period. Somehow, its popularity and demeanor are both being sensationalized in all the major media.
Let's go, guys. Simeon's got a cool style, you know, sort of got that surfer thing going on, just a little bit funky, but I like it. I was totally relieved because he was really cute, seemed like a totally
Why then do the
sweet guy.
heathen rage? Why do the homosexuals rage against Christian morals and standards? Romans 1 verses 25 through 28 gives us the reason. Who changed the truth of God into a lie and worshipped and served the creature more than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. For this cause God gave them up unto vile affections, for even their women did change their natural use into that which was against nature. And likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of a woman, burned in their lust one toward another. They even go against nature. See, God tells you it's a natural thing for a man to be with a woman. But reading further we'll see, men with men, working that which is unseemingly, and receiving in themselves a recompense of their error, which was meet. And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a reprobate mind, to do those things which are not convenient. Maybe this time next year videos like mine will be labeled thought crimes. I mean, it's not that hard to believe or imagine if now a person calls someone a name like, quote, faggot or, quote, dyke. It's considered a felony hate crime. The same applies to other terms that are blaring out of car windows if you want to take a ride up Main Street. Soon it will be illegal for a preacher to stand in the pulpit and stand against sin.
Gay, straight, or taken, Kara will be dating 3 guys who all swear they're the one for her.
Just look at how the blind lead the blind. The pseudoscientist, or as you may know them, the psychotherapist that anyone can buy, define anything as a disorder. But as soon as someone says, hey, I'm a homosexual, but I feel good about it, it will take no long time to declare the masses, quote, cured. If you just took a look around you, you'd see that the masses, they meet just like in the days of Job. They meet with darkness in the daytime and grope in the noonday as at night. As I want you to see in this upcoming clip how originally even a psychologist declared homosexuality a disorder, and now it's just the norm. God gave them over to a reprobate mind, truly.
Your efforts are in vain. I am the Silver Spooner, culinary guide for, herald of, and personal valet to, Master. His most... The Master has chosen planet Earth as his main course. So, let the feast begin!
In 1952, the American Psychiatric Association produced a book titled Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. Commonly called the DSM, it is considered the Bible of mental illness. Originally, it listed 106 mental disorders.
And as you use the DSM, you'll find that, all of us fit into one or more of the categories of the DSM. And it just depends on how you use the DSM. But I would say that the DSM is a categorizer of people that began with a small beginning, but it has expanded to literally hundreds of individual designations that would label us as mentally ill, and erroneously so.
The DSM list grew to 182 in 1968, then to 265 in 1980, and to 292 in 1987. The count in today's 4th edition DSM manual is 374 mental disorders. They include alleged dysfunctions of the mind such as oppositional defiant disorder, classifying a child or adult who demonstrates hostile behavior toward authority figures as mentally ill. The symptoms include losing one's temper, arguing with adults, deliberately doing things that will annoy other people, and blaming others for his or her own mistakes or misbehavior. Narcissistic personality disorder is a mental illness demonstrated by those who, ironically, nurture their self-esteem beyond the norm set by psychology.
You remember what people used to call people were shy. Now it's social anxiety disorder. So that if you're shy and you want to be able to have psychotherapy to help you get over your shyness, then, or you want to talk to a therapist because you need someone to talk to because maybe you need a paid friend, you just can have anything, any ordinary thing like shyness, and that's turned into one of the categories.
In 2004 in Canada, there was a Statistics Canada did a survey of the entire Canadian population and determined that 2 million people are suffering from debilitating shyness, which is now defined as a social anxiety disorder. And claiming in the Canadian media has reported that survey to indicate that means that 2 million of us in Canada maybe didn't go to school long enough, didn't get good jobs, had our marriages fail because of this debilitating problem. I end up being speechless, as I am right now, because we can turn shyness, we can turn virtually anything. We can label it. We can transform it from something that might just say, okay, I'm a shy kid, into, no, you're someone with a serious problem and you need help, or your whole life is going to be destroyed.
If a person has an antagonistic view of psychological counseling, refusing to subject himself to therapy, he's classified as suffering from non-compliance with treatment disorder. Then there is unspecified mental disorder, which for the purposes of health insurance coverage gives a code for specific mental disorders not included in the DSM-4.
Psychology's handling of normal is quite bizarre. You know, we have thermometers that measure, what the temperature is,
And we can define a range of normal. And we have an instrument that defines it. With psychology, normal is basically whatever a psychologist says is normal. And abnormal is whatever a psychologist might say is abnormal. So the standard doesn't exist other than in the mind of a psychologist, which means that virtually everything can become abnormal.
Just how the mental disorders qualified for listing or were later disqualified was not exactly a rigorous scientific process. It's called a vote. The most notorious example of this process had to do with homosexuality. Prior to 1973, it was listed as a mental disorder. However, the National Gay Task Force began pressuring the American Psychiatric Association and was successful in getting the organization to change its view of homosexuality from a deviant abnormal behavior to a sexual preference. The APA subsequently voted to remove homosexuality from its mental disorder list. As the list grew over the years from 103 to 374 mental disorders, so did the number of those who would need help, and consequently, there would be greater need for professionals to help them.
Hey, Cosgrove, how come you never got married? Because I like meat too much. You could be married and still eat a lot of meat. I didn't know that. Because I like meat too much. You could be married and still eat a lot of meat.
Done your own reflection.
There are more and more laws being passed all the time that allows homosexuals to marry, and dare I ask why they would even want to join in a union when the same God they rebel against is the one who declares it a good thing to marry. They attempt to disgrace a covenant relationship that God Almighty has put in place.
The error of my ways. I am a changed man. Well, goodbye, your worship, and thanks for everything. I won't let you down.
Farewell, goodly rodent. Hasta la pizza.
Hey, Cobb!
Undoubtedly, the family structure that God has ordained as good is what the devil is targeted. Whether it be homosexual shows as you just saw on MTV, or whether it be desperate housewives teaching women to cheat on their husbands. And as you see the apple symbology here with Eve eating the forbidden fruit and all the cast doing the same. It's all the same target, the family, and it's trying to make a mockery of what God has ordained as good.
For the record, you are guilty of killing many women and girls.
Yes. Yes, that's true.
Ted, how did it happen? Take me back. What are the antecedents of the behavior that we've seen? So much grief, so much sorrow, so much pain for so many people. Where did it start? How did this moment come about?
That's the question of the hour, and one that not only people much more intelligent than I have been working on for years, but one that I've been working on for years and trying to understand. I think I understand it, though. Understand what happened to me, to the extent that I can see how certain feelings and ideas developed in me to the point where I began to act out on them. Certain very violent and very destructive feelings.
All right, let's go back then to those roots. First of all, you, as I understand it, were raised in what you consider to have been a healthy home.
Absolutely.
You were not physically abused. You were not sexually abused. You were not emotionally abused.
No, no way. And that's part of the tragedy of this whole situation, is because I grew up in a wonderful home with two dedicated and loving parents, one of 5 brothers and sisters. A home where we as children were the focus of my parents' lives, where we regularly attended church, 2 Christian parents who did not drink, they did not smoke, there was no gambling, there was no physical abuse or fighting in the home. I'm not saying this was Leave It to Beaver.
It wasn't a perfect home.
Well, no, I don't know that such a home exists, but it was a fine, solid Christian home, and nobody, I hope no one will try to take the easy way out and to try to blame or otherwise accuse my family of contributing to this, because I know, and I'm trying to tell you as honestly as I know what happened, and I think this is a message I want to get across. But as a young boy, and I mean a boy of 12, 13, certainly, that I encountered outside the home again, in the local grocery store, the local drugstore, the softcore pornography, what people call softcore. But as I think I explained to you last night, Dr. Dobson, in an anecdote, that as young boys do, we explored the back roads and sideways and byways of our neighborhood, and oftentimes people would dump the garbage and whatever they were cleaning out of their house, and from time to time we'd come across pornographic books of a harder nature than more graphic, you might say, more explicit nature than we would encounter, let's say, in your local grocery store. And this also included such things as, let's say, detective magazines and more hardcore.
Those that involve violence.
Yes, yes, and and this is something I think I want to emphasize, is the most damaging kinds of pornography. And again, I'm talking from personal experience, hard, real personal experience. The most damaging kinds of pornography are those that involve violence and sexual violence. Because the wedding of those two forces, as I know only too well, brings about behavior that is just too terrible to describe.
Now,
I'll get it! Look, it's a big fat fanny!
Do you know who I am?
No, but maybe if you hum a few bars.
I am Ludwig van Beethoven, world-famous composer and pianist.
You're a what?
A pianist.
Mwah! Good night, everybody.
But that is what I am, a pianist.
I think we've heard enough out of you.
Gotta watch my figure. Hey, somebody's gotta watch it.
Wait a minute. You expect us poor innocent children to climb up dangerous scaffolding and paint naked people all over a church? We'll do it! But we're not doing it for the sake of art, and we're not doing it for the sake of money. No, we're doing it because we like painting naked people.
Hello, nurse.
Boys.
Can a girl get any privacy?
Cause when I returned, much to my disgrace, those monkeys had the nurse in a mad embrace.
I don't know what to say, the monkeys won't do. For a nickel, I'll give you a clue.
The stockings were hung so our names clearly showed.
In hopes this old Sansa would leave a big load. Good night, everybody. That means we'll all be like a family.
Can we call you Dadu?
Hey, Pop, can we stay up past 10?
Can we watch the adult channel?
Hello, nurse.
I didn't know you cared.
It's time to take the ink blood test. Now, tell me, what does this remind you of?
Girls.
What does this remind you of?
Girls.
How do you do? Now, Yeko, you try.
How do you do? That thing with your mouth. Take me away, but be gentle. I'm fragile.
Noah.
Ma, your voice has changed.
I'm not your mother, Noah.
Oh my god.
Precisely.
Hello, nurses. Say, why don't you stop by the water tower and I'll show you my stamp collection.
But Diaco, you don't have a stamp collection.
All right, then, you can open my mail.
You don't want to eat me. I'm just a little skinny thing.
Yeah, we're crazy.
Tomorrow is the running of the Kentucky Derby. Do you know what that is?
Oh, a very large hat.
Promise me something, Pinky. Never breed.
I'll try.
Come on, you guys. We're gonna play Truth or Dare.
All we could do was watch, till I spilled lots of soda all over my crotch.
Yakko, can you conjugate?
Oh, me? I've never even kissed a girl.
No, it's easy. I'll conjugate with you.
Good night, everybody.
You don't understand. Let me go to the board and show you.
Don't look.
Buster and Babs Bunny. No relation.
Let's hope not. It's a children's show. Bunnies.
Deception.
Homosexuality, just sexual perversion, lust, which leads to unwanted children that are aborted, which we'll talk about later. But these are just things they use to attack the kids and attack the family structure. Pornography is Ted Bundy, convicted serial murderer, sociopath, psychopath, whatever you want to call them. They admit it to you that it's the pornography, it's the things they put before their eyes that affected their spirit and caused them to do this heinous acts that they commit, whether it be lust, pride, murder, or whatever. No sin's greater than the other. So what Ted Bundy did is no greater than just rejecting God. Now look here at the morals they try to teach your children, as in these cartoons, as teaching a girl to be a rock star and just get a bunch of boyfriends and make them jealous and lie to them. Listen to the words of these songs from the old cartoon named Jim.
Rampant crime, moral decay, the city's going to heck!
But what can we do?
You can come with me!
Commander Cash!
Fight crime with a strong economy. And these...
Credit cards!
Be a superhero!
Be a super shopper!
The OCP Supercard. No annual membership fee and still at the low 38%.
Hey everyone, it's Miley, and right now I've got a special announcement just for you Disney Channel viewers. As you may know, I've kicked off the Hannah Montana and Miley Cyrus Best of Both Worlds concert tour featuring the Jonas Brothers. You get the best! And now we're going to film the concert and turn it into a 3D movie. On February 1st, 2008, for 1 week, you can see the concert and our backstage adventures only in theaters and only in Disney Digital 3D. See you there.
Coming in theaters in Disney Digital 3D.
Thank you.
You just heard Ted Bundy declare it, and you've heard me declare it from the Word of God, that what you put before your eyes will affect your spirit. And in Mark chapter 7, verse 21 through 23, we read, "For from within, out of the heart of men, proceed evil thoughts, adulteries, fornications, murders, thefts, covetousness, wickedness, deceit, lasciviousness, an evil eye, blasphemy, pride, foolishness. All these evil things come from within and defile the man."